Good evening and welcome to the first of two Inside Government shows tonight for the fall 2025 semester here at Cayuga Community College. This is a show that's brought on Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, as well as ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, and WIN 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. We are delighted to have in the office today Sheriff Brian Schenck, who is in our studio. He was elected as sheriff in 2018. He was reelected in 2022 and is up for reelection next year. We've asked the sheriff on to give us an update on his office's involvement in the ICE raid at the Cato nutrition bar Confectioners on September 4th. This is, I think, the first extended interview he has done on television. And we want to also talk about other work that your office does, though seems to be everything's concentrated on that. So we've got some other things to talk to you about, but welcome back.
Thank you, Guy. I appreciate it.
Glad to have you in the studio, and let's dive into the issue of nutrition bar confectioners. Can you walk us through how this all started? You received a phone call in July, as I understand it. How'd the process go?
Sure. So I did receive a phone call at the end of July from Customs and Border Patrol relative to an open investigation that they were working on. And just to provide a little context, we've worked in partnership with Border Patrol for many years at the Sheriff's Office.
It's a normal day-to-day, if they call you, you help them out.
Correct. We've received funding from them since 2009 for dedicated patrols and to partner with them on details if they need us to do that. In 2011, they actually purchased a mobile command unit for us, and since 2009, they've provided us with quite a bit of funding for equipment and those dedicated patrols at the north end. And we have a northern border. It's an international border at Lake Ontario. Not everybody in our community realizes that, but that is an international border, so that's what brings that partnership and funding to us from Border Patrol.
I'm going to kind of skip. We're going to get back to how you got a phone call. So if in this particular instance on September 4th, were you reimbursed for time? Were there payments made to the county or the sheriff's department because resources were used for a federal investigation?
There will be reimbursement. Okay. We haven't received that yet, but we do basically invoice them for any time that we serve or do proactive patrols or partnering on details with them. That has been invoiced to them, and we will receive reimbursement.
And does that go to your department, or does that just go to the county general fund?
That will go to the county general fund.
Okay.
Correct.
So you're first contacted, you said it was Customs?
Customs and Border Patrol.
And you were not the only department contacted. As I understand, I think the Oswego County Sheriff's Department was also contacted?
That's correct.
Were you the two main law enforcement agencies, local law enforcement agencies involved in this besides ICE?
We were. Both of our agencies have that ongoing partnership with Border Patrol, so we were contacted.
Were state troopers there?
There were no state troopers there.
So what was the role your deputies played?
So when we were contacted, we were asked to assist them with the execution of actually 2 search warrants on September 4th when that execution took place at Nutrition Bar Confectioners. So after they reached out on July 4th, there was a meeting or two where we did connect relative to what they were working on and what they were going to do there, what they were looking for from us for assistance. And we did put a plan together and assist them in executing 2 separate search warrants that day.
All right, so let's separate these two out as to what you were told and what your duties were. We'll go to duties in a second. What were you told was going to occur there?
I was told and was aware that there were going to be 2 search warrants executed, primarily by the federal authorities that day. That included Homeland Security Investigations, Border Patrol, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the IRS. Primarily those federal agencies were going to execute those 2 warrants at the facility.
And were they for a broad scope in the sense that I think in the end there's numbers that vary between 57 and 67. Was this for specific number of individuals or just a group in general? No,
so the 2 warrants were quite different, and they had specific goals with the warrants. Both were signed by a federal judge. One warrant was an administrative warrant, which authorized those federal authorities to have access to that building that day to interact with individuals relative to potential immigration enforcement if that was going to come into play. And the second warrant was a criminal search warrant, which directed and authorized the search and seizure of specific evidence relative to a criminal investigation that they were working on.
Not necessarily people.
Correct. It was not for people.
Okay.
It was relative to a criminal investigation.
So in some of the interviews, not necessarily with you, although I think you might have been on the periphery of one that I either read about or saw, you've been in the media a lot in the last month and a half, most likely not to your liking all the time. Were there any violent criminals apprehended that day?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know exactly who the individuals were that were apprehended that day. I wasn't involved with any follow-up or identifying those individuals or learning what their history was. So,
or where they are?
Correct. To my knowledge, there weren't any violent people identified that day.
Okay, so let's go to the second piece. What role did your department play?
We were asked by our federal partners that day to provide perimeter security at the location when those search warrants were executed.
So for those who haven't visualized, I drive by it all the time because it's on the way to our Fulton campus. It's up on a hill to the left. There's a lot of green space to the south and the north of it. I don't know what's on the other side, but it is a major road that goes up to the county line.
It is, and it's on a main state route, Route 34, in the town of Cato. There is a lot of traffic there. The driveways are on a hill, so it's a little bit of a tricky and challenging spot to come in and out of that location. So along with our perimeter security request, we were asked to provide traffic safety there just to make sure that people coming in and out of the facility as that warrant was executed could do that safely and without any issues. So we did partner with the Oswego County Sheriff's Office and addressed not only the perimeter security, but also the traffic coming in and out of the location that day.
Did Oswego Sheriff's Department do the same thing you did, or were they involved in something else as well?
They were there with us on the perimeter and
Okay.
at the driveway. So
let's get to the day. It comes up. How many deputies did you have up there?
we had 9 members altogether that were involved with that detail that day. That included the undersheriff and I.
So you were both there as well?
Correct.
So your staff never went into the plant?
We did not, and that we had no plan to do that initially, and we were not going to be engaged in any of that unless there was some type of emergency. If something happened,
Right.
some type of violent matter or situation or something where we needed to assist with that, we certainly would have. But it was not our role or plan to provide any assistance with the execution of the search warrant.
Did you detain anyone?
We did not.
Okay.
Not our sheriff's office.
So one of the things that has come out in the media a lot is that you all had, your deputies, I don't know about you, but all of your deputies seem to have body cams on. Is that normal? And I guess, did everybody have body cams on?
So all of our road patrol deputies in the road patrol division do wear body-worn cameras, and anytime we're engaged in any type of
So it wasn't
activity.
specifically for this, it's if they make a stop, they have it on.
Correct. They're always going to have those on, and that day that was no different. We were conducting a law enforcement activity, so they had their cameras on per our policy, and they do have those on. That was nothing special due to that detail.
And then you release those to the media, and how long is that information usually kept by your department?
Well, it depends on what the nature of the incident is. We have policies that dictate how long we will keep certain footage. If it's if it were relative to a homicide or a very serious felony investigation, we're going to keep that forever. If it's a minor traffic ticket or a minor infraction, it's going to be much less time. But it depends on the nature of the incident, how long we keep that.
And I want to go to the aftermath here, because as far as your department is concerned, what happened on September 4th is what you do, whether it's in an event like that or if you're asked to, get people out of Emerson Park, it's traffic. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
You do what you do.
We provided security at the location and traffic safety, obviously.
So do you know what happened to any of those people in the end? Are any of them back in Cayuga County to your knowledge, or do you not know what happened to them?
I don't have direct knowledge. I have seen some reports that, there have been some media reports that I don't know if they're coming directly from individuals that have accurate information. But as far as me having direct information from our federal authorities, I don't know the status of any of the individuals.
Would you normally get, again, this is traffic, would you normally get a report from whoever you were contracting, whether it was Homeland Security, Border, ICE, the IRS? Would they send you a note saying, hey, by the way, we arrested X number of people.
You know, if we had direct involvement with the particular investigation, we would. In this particular case, we didn't. They provided that enforcement activity there, and we were not directly involved in that. So this isn't anything that's unique. I mean,
It's unique because it made the news and because of the situation.
The nature of the enforcement, and sure, I know that.
Are you surprised at the public's response?
I'm not. I know that this is a very controversial issue, and it's you know, I've seen there's been fallout since this happened, as you just mentioned, and some of the reports in the media relative to me haven't been all that positive. But it's incredible to me because people have such strong opinions about this issue on both sides of this issue, and I've seen that in our community. So I do understand that, and I'm not necessarily surprised.
So I would say you are one of those officials right now who's in the middle of a rock and a hard place, as the saying goes. You are damned one way or the other. I'm going to use all those analogies. But there are people who say, hey, listen, if there were 4 illegal, because I think there has been a news report that 4 individuals have been charged with a crime. That's the job. Arrest them, you know, whatever comes from that. And then there are some who say, you know, why was this business in Cato targeted, et cetera. So you have them on the full panoply. But it was a big enough issue for you that you are very good about, you've come on this show every semester, you're good about communicating with the public. You do not normally write letters to the editor, open letters to explain what went on. Why did you do that?
Well, I thought it was important. I reached out twice to the media and on our social media pages to provide some detail because I thought it was very important for the public to understand what our role as a sheriff's office was that day. I thought it was very important for us to share what we could about what brought us there that day. I don't think that the federal authorities have released really much information relative to this, so it's really left people wondering, why was our sheriff's office there? You know, what was their role? And what brought them there. So I felt it was important to get that information out there. There's still a lot of information that's not being released relative to the ongoing investigation that Homeland Security is working on.
Not by you, by the federal government.
Correct. I'm not involved with that. Our agency is not involved with that. They're not releasing any information relative to that ongoing investigation. So I hope that soon down the road that they can release some details and provide more context as to what brought everybody there that day, but they haven't yet.
We'll get to that in a second. Do you think what they told you in early July and what occurred on September 4th was consistent with what you were told was going to happen? Or did what occurred there on the site, and again, you weren't in the building, was this a much different interpretation? Would you have interpreted differently what you heard when the first request came in July?
It was not. So I knew that there were 2 separate warrants. I knew that they were differing warrants and what the goal of those warrants were, and I knew what the federal authorities were going to do there that day. I can't speak to what exactly happened in the building because I didn't witness that firsthand or take part in that, but what I understood to happen that day as far as the warrants were concerned did happen. And I think what was frustrating for me initially too when I released some information is there was a lot of reports in the media that there was 1 administrative warrant that was executed that day. There was no discussion about a criminal search warrant, no discussion about the seizure of evidence and an ongoing investigation.
And you have no idea what was seized?
I don't exactly. I know what the warrant listed as far as what was authorized to be seized, and I can't speak to that, but that's something that HSI will have to speak to. That's part of their investigation, and they're not releasing that.
And do you expect them to reach out, or are they under siege on so many different fronts across the country that dealing with releasing information about this particular raid?
I don't know if, when or if they're going to reach out. You mentioned it a little bit ago. I've always tried to be very transparent, regarding what we do at the sheriff's office. I think the public has a right to know. I've always said our sheriff's office belongs to the people that we serve. It's not my sheriff's office. It's this community's sheriff's office, and I think it's important that we're transparent and that we release information. I wish the federal authorities would release more information. I think there would be additional public trust if that was the case, but I can't control what they do.
Would you do anything different if you received a call tomorrow on the 10th of October from the same people and they said we need to do the following thing somewhere else in Cayuga County, would you do everything that you did July through the end of the day on September 4th? Would you do it all the same?
I can tell you that if there's a legitimate public safety interest, or if there's criminal activity in our community that needs to be addressed, or I feel needs to be addressed, we're absolutely going to participate in that. When it comes to civil immigration enforcement, I know there's a lot of strong opinions about that, whether or not our local agencies should be involved in that. We don't enforce civil immigration law, and we did not that day. But I can tell you that I'm not going to turn a blind eye to criminal conduct or matters related to public safety because there's a connection to some type of civil immigration enforcement to that. So, these are very complicated situations that we're dealing with today, and that case was very complicated. This was not just a quote-unquote raid where the federal authorities just, randomly picked a location to go do this type of enforcement. They were brought there because of a criminal investigation prior to this. So that came with some potential public safety issues that we were asked to assist with, due to our partnership with Border Patrol. So, every case is unique. We're going to look at that. But if there is a public safety concern or criminal activity involved, our agency will certainly be involved with those things.
So that goes to the last piece, and then we're going to move on to other stuff that your department does. So one of the aftermaths there is that a group of members of the Cayuga County Legislature are discussing what's called a non-cooperation agreement. I don't know that I've ever heard that term, but they would like to prevent your office from participating in future immigration raids. First of all, have you been consulted on that?
By the legislature, I have had discussions with both caucuses within our legislature relative to this.
Before it was released to the public, or before?
No, that since the meeting when that was announced that could potentially happen.
Do you think it's a good idea?
I do not, and I don't think, as sheriff of the county, I get my authority through state law, through the state's constitution, through our constitution. At the federal level, I don't think that the legislature can tie my hands relative to what, they can't set policy that's going to determine how I deploy my resources or how we do what we do.
They can budgetarily, but
Correct.
This is where I want to go with this. You were duly elected by all members of all the voters of Cayuga County. You are, in essence, like the county clerk and the county treasurer, you are an independent elected official.
I am, and I answer to the people, not to the county legislature. So, but I don't want that to sound like I don't value my partnership with the legislature, regardless of what side of the political aisle people sit on. I don't want to get into a situation where we have that. I don't want to be at odds with the legislature.
No, I understand that, but you are an independent. I mean, if they told the clerk not to take marriage licenses for the clerk doesn't do that, but if there was something for home ownership or something they wanted to change, whether because it was political in nature, that doesn't change what the responsibility of that office is.
Correct. And I will say I've had a conversation with a number of our legislators regarding this issue on both sides of the political aisle. And, I think we're working through this in a manner that will, both sides will be able to be comfortable with. So I'm hopeful that doesn't come forward. I don't think that it's going to come forward. I don't think it'll be good for anybody.
All right, well, so let's switch some gears. In the last month, your office was recognized for its accreditation. Mm-hmm. By whom, first of all?
So the New York State Department of Criminal Justice Services, they did approve our accreditation application and assessment, and I'm really proud to say that we're one of 189 law enforcement agencies out of 532, I believe, in New York State that are accredited. So very, very proud achievement for our staff.
I was surprised on the 189 versus 532. I didn't do the exact math, but that's less than 40%. Are you surprised there's so few?
It's a pretty significant number.
So was this reaccreditation or accreditation?
So a little bit of both. Okay. So many years ago, before I was sheriff, we were accredited for a 5-year cycle, and then that was not renewed. And so we have not been accredited for a number of years. We were not accredited when I took over as sheriff, but that was one of my main goals, was to get our road patrol and jail divisions accredited, and I'm proud to say that both are today.
What does this do for your office?
So it basically makes the statement that we've met certain standards, 112 particular standards that are set by the state of New York that recognize that an agency is operating in an effective and an efficient and a professional manner. That we've got up-to-date policy that we're following.
So you send them paperwork, and do they make site visits as well?
They do, yes, and we have to every year we have to provide proof that we're operating in such a manner that meets those requirements for accreditation. So we are doing that. We did provide proof for our initial assessment to achieve that. So really proud to say that we've risen to the occasion when it comes to proving to this community that we are a professional agency operating with the best practices and the best policy and the best training that we can.
So if someone's looking at the camera right now or looking at you on camera right now, they notice that your badge is pink. Why is that?
So we are, when I say we, all of our Road Patrol Division members and the Undersheriff and I are wearing pink badges in the month of October to recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So our Road Patrol Division purchased these badges a few years ago, and each October we wear them to bring awareness to this
Do you do
disease.
any other colors?
We do not.
Okay.
No.
But one of the things that you are doing, because people are going to see a lot of purple this month, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I know we're doing pinwheels in the front of our building on the 17th. How big an issue still is domestic violence here in Cayuga County?
Unfortunately, it's just as serious as it was many years ago. I think you and I have talked about that before on the show, and I hate to say that we haven't really seen an improvement in that. And
What type of cases do you see?
All kinds of cases. Domestic violence touches a lot of families in our community, and every case is unique and different. But even today, we put out 2 arrest press releases this morning about 2 domestic violence cases where I believe in both cases somebody was charged with attempted assault. So sometimes there's violence involved. Sometimes, it's menacing behavior or violations of order protections or things like that. But we see a lot of domestic violence in our community, and I was looking at stats just before I came today, and typically year over year between all of our agencies, the state police, Auburn Police Department, and our agency, we have upwards of 2,000 responses each year to reports of domestic violence, and that's a significant number for the size of our county.
So how can your department, because you're not in the prevention business necessarily, other than traffic stops and things of that nature, how can your office help reduce that?
Well, we try to partner with agencies that do some of that work, and I can think of Cayuga Counseling has an advocate that's embedded in our sheriff's office who helps people with these victims of crime and certainly victims of domestic violence. They do some training and prevention work, and so does the community action programs of Cayuga Seneca CAP. They have a really great advocacy program, and they do some domestic violence prevention. But this month is also, it is Domestic Violence Prevention Month, and this is a month where we do try to bring focus to this issue, try to bring prevention to this issue by partnering with all of our partner agencies. And I think I wish we could highlight this year-round instead of one month.
But it does also spike, if I remember correctly, as we get into the winter months, as people become more enclosed. Then you have the 3 horrible New Year's, Super Bowl weekend, and Valentine's Day, which I believe are the hot spots.
Well, it's really, it can really be any day. There's really, at times, no rhyme or reason for, why we see spikes in domestic violence numbers. But I think it's, if I can just note, Guy, I think it's really important that anybody watching or listening know that if you or someone is struggling with this issue, there are resources out there. Take advantage of those. You don't have to call law enforcement necessarily if it's not an emergency, but reach out to an advocate, do an internet
Cayuga
search.
Counseling, Cayuga Seneca Action Program.
Absolutely, CAP. Do an internet search, find those resources, get connected with an advocate, and get some help.
So the other item that you're always embattled on is the illicit drug front. So in that particular, what are you seeing out there right now in trends?
So it's an interesting trend. For many years, we've had a lot of challenges with opiate use, heroin, fentanyl, and we've seen a lot of overdoses and overdose deaths in our community. We're seeing a shift right now in our community from opiate use and fentanyl use more so to cocaine and crack cocaine. We're seeing that.
So they're making a comeback.
They are. It's good news and bad news. It's good news in a way that we're not seeing the overdoses and deaths that we see with the
So
fentanyl.
those are on decline.
Correct.
Okay.
But unfortunately, we're seeing people shift to a different drug, that being cocaine and crack cocaine and methamphetamine. So unfortunately, we're still battling those things.
What's your biggest worry on that front right now?
You know, nothing good comes from drug use. I'm worried about the fact that, you know, that will continue to drive crime in our community. You know, if it's burglaries or larcenies or sometimes violent crime, you'll find a lot of times there's, you know, the perpetrators of that are utilizing drugs or using drugs.
Your office was in the paper recently also. You made some welfare fraud arrests. What role do you play in those types of investigations and arrests?
So recently, our Sheriff's Office has been partnering much closer with Cayuga County Department of Social Services and our District Attorney's Office to put these welfare fraud cases together. So
are they being referred to you, or are these independent investigations that you start up?
Both.
Okay.
They're both. Social services will get tips or have information that will lead them to investigate these things. We might get information that does that, and same with the district attorney's office. But they come to us in different angles. But I think the great thing is the three agencies are working very closely to put these cases together and hold people accountable.
But your office is basically handling the investigations themselves.
We're actually working on them. All three of us are together, all three agencies.
All right, I want to talk about money just for a few minutes, only because of a story in today's Citizen as we tape on Tuesday. First of all, I want to go back to some Homeland Security money. Originally, the federal government cut $187 million out from New York State. I know that's been given back, or the federal government has reversed their position, correct on that?
Yes, they have.
How much was coming to Cayuga County?
About $120,000.
So what do you use that money for?
We use that money for a number of things. We do buy equipment for certain things. Our tactical team, our SWAT team, emergency response team, we utilize that funding for equipment for them.
Can they be used on non-Homeland Security related investigations and work?
It's very specific what we can use that money for. There's certain categories.
But once you've bought a piece of equipment.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we have that equipment, certainly we could utilize that in other scenarios, but they are very specific about what we can purchase the equipment for.
And New York was the only one of the only states, if not the only state, that got a cut in this, and then it had to be restored.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I'm a little suspicious of what the issues were there, maybe politically driven, but fortunately that money was restored because that money has an impact on our local public safety crime fighting abilities here. I'm just glad that was restored.
I know that members of the health department, because we're going to have Dr. Archer here in a few minutes, but her bosses are at the county making their budget presentations. Have you made your budget presentation yet?
No, so I will be next week on the 15th to the legislature.
And are you going to be asking for more money? Forget labor agreements, separate from that. Are you requesting other increases beyond what your base is this year?
Absent labor increases and health insurance costs, I'm not asking for anything. In fact, I've made some pretty significant cuts trying to trim the budget down. But I will tell you that contractual labor increases and our health insurance costs are significantly impacting our budget as well as the whole county budget. So those are going to be the drivers of these increases this year.
Do you see cuts coming down? Because they do have, as reported, but the number's nebulous, at this $9.5 million shortfall?
There's going to have to be. I mean, you can't have a $9.5 million deficit. I mean, we can't ask the taxpayer to bridge that gap. We've got to come up with ways to do it, and unfortunately, it's going to be painful wherever these cuts come from throughout the county budget, whether it's my budget or other departments. It's going to impact services, and it's going to be very difficult.
At the start of the show, I mentioned that you are finishing, this is your third year of a second 4-year term. You will have to file petitions before we have you back on next. Will you be running for re-election?
Well, at this point, I plan to do that, so.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Our guest has been Cayuga County Sheriff Brian Schenck. We want to thank you for coming on. More importantly, for your willingness to walk us through this whole ICE issue and how your office became involved in what they did. We appreciate him always being willing to come into the studio. We will be back in a moment with Cayuga County Health Department's Dr. Cassandra Archer to give us an update on efforts to deal with COVID and the flu in this coming season. The college is closed on Tuesday and will return next Thursday, October 16th, when the college and the Citizen will bring us both candidates for the Cayuga County 10th District's special election. That's Democrat Amy Sargent, who is filling a seat right now, and Republican Michael Pendergrass. They'll be in the studio with the Citizens' Robert Harding, who will ask the questions, and I will moderate. If you'd like to send us your ideas for questions, you can always send them to cozguytho@aol.com. Those are for everything but the candidate forums. Those are all Mr. Harding. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. Thank you for watching. Stick around. We'll be right back with Dr. Archer.